Hey everyone, this is Brittany from House of Sage and Lavender. Started a few minutes early so that people can get notifications and join in. Alright, YouTube. Channel. Okay, shut up, Steven. Alright, I'm gonna give it one more minute and then I will start. Okay, so let me switch over to the thing here. Alright, so I am going to actually hold on. Because you'll need to see me for a second. Okay, so this was a request by Samantha for this topic. The topic is bird magic. I have a book on it. It's Bird Magic, Wisdom of the Ancient Goddess for Pagans and Wiccans by Sandra Keynes. I'm not, this is a thick book, but I'm not going through all of it. I made a presentation of a few important things that I wanted to talk about, and then if anybody has any specific birds they want to know about, um, we can go through it in the second part, and then of course I will go through and like say some of them myself. But I'm going to get started, and I'm going to go back to sharing my screen so I don't have to see my messy hair. And I won't be able to see your comments until I pause, because there is a few spots where I will actually be showing you a picture or something from the book. Alright, so let's talk about birds in magic. Find my spot here. So, birds in spiritual practice and symbolism. In addition to representing or lending their power to a plethora of gods and goddesses, birds were integral to certain practices such as shamanism and divination, especially as guides and messengers. Their ability to fly linked them with supernatural forces that humans wanted to harness and master. In addition, birds continue to serve as powerful symbols. In shamanism, throughout the world, birds figured largely in shamanism as a symbol of magical flight. They also serve as guides and guardians to help navigate between the worlds. In some traditions, shamans were believed to shapeshift into birds. Widely used as clothing and tools, feathers provided the shaman with the transformative power needed to enter the spirit world. Even a single feather was believed to hold significant power. As a substitute, coats with feather-like fringes were occasionally worn. In addition to feathers, wings, and beaks were incorporated into ritual garb in the belief that these items could transmit the bird's power to a human. Eating a bird was also regarded as another way in which the power of a bird could be acquired. Bones also held magical power. In many cultures, it was believed that bones contained some of the animal's, in this case a bird's, life force energy. It was also believed that from the bones, the spirit of the creature could be rejuvenated. Bones were carved and worn as amulets, incorporated into ritual clothing, or used as prophecy devices. In addition, bird bones were often carved and fashioned into flutes, which have been found at a number of ancient sites. In Irish lore, the druid Magruth was referred to as a birdman, dressing in a bird costume like a shaman. Druids and priestesses were said to have worn robes of feathers for magical power and for aid in contacting other realms. In addition to being goose-footed, Norse goddess Freya possessed a feathered cloak that enabled the wearer to fly. Bird garb and tools provide one way to summon the power of a bird. Dancing or imitating a bird's movement was also used to summon and merge with its energy. Imitating a bird was a method for drawing out and assuming particular qualities. In addition, bird postures were used for sympathetic magic. According to Celtic myths, a crane posture was used for general spellwork as well as for a form of retributive magic known as crane wounding. This is the crane pose. Uh, it's a yoga pose. Augury and bird divination. While many animals were linked with divination practices, birds were very closely associated with it. Augury encompasses several methods, including observing birds in flight, listening to their songs or other noises, and the study of entrails. The word augury comes from either the Old French augere or the Latin augurium, both meaning the interpretation of omens. According to Don Stapp, a professor, author, and a leading expert on birdsong, the word augury was also interpreted as meaning bird talk. Watching birds for prophecy was practiced by the Hittites who lived in the Anatolian region of present-day Turkey from approximately 1700 to 1200 BCE. Clay tablets written by Hittite officials mention their observation of eagles and falcons. Closely linked with birds, the Sumerian goddess Nance was associated with divination and dream interpretation. The Etruscans of northern Italy became famous practitioners of augury. Their augurs were regarded as intermediaries who received divine messages through birds. Most often, Etruscan augurs observed crows, ravens, eagles, owls, and woodpeckers. In Rome, an augur was an official who interpreted general nature signs, which included the behavior of birds. Omens gleaned from birds were called et- et- Etruscan teachings. According to myth, the location for the city of Rome was determined by observing the flight of birds. Ravens and doves were highly regarded for their oracular powers. According to one Greek myth, a black dove that flew from Thebes in Egypt landed in one of the oak trees at Dodona. It was said to have the power of human speech, and the prophetesses at Dodona came to be called Pleiades, doves. This important oracle site was later dedicated to Zeus. The Greeks also built towers from which they could observe and listen to birds because the animals were believed to bring messages directly from the gods. Bird divination continued through the centuries, especially for predicting the weather. The direction of a bird call, its location, or certain behaviors in flight held specific meanings. In southern Germany, the breastbone of a goose eaten for the feast of St. Martin's Day was used to tell the weather of the approaching winter. More familiar is the breaking of the Thanksgiving turkey wishbone, which is a holdover from bird divination practices. Ornithomancy is a term for divination of flight and songs. In this slide, you will see some pictures of feather meanings, which we talk about feathers just a little bit in a later section. Here, I will stop and see if there's any questions. Is that a crow? Yes, that was a crow that I put the picture of. Is this the owl, a snowy owl, and then the second one was a crow. Welcome to those who are joining. I am going through just a little bit of information from this, but there's way too much information. But it will give you a good idea of what this book entails, and you can find it for yourself. But I am going to go back into my next slide. All right. Actually, no. Go back. Okay, I didn't include this part. So I'm going to actually exit out because I'm going to end up showing you something in just a moment. Okay. So symbolism, although we may not be aware of them, the symbols are an integral part of daily life in the form of road signs, laundering instructions, and other types of notation. While these symbols communicate information, they do not hold significant meaning. However, in art, myth, and religion, symbols convey nonverbal clues that reach into our psyche. These symbols work because without explanation they hold the essence of a concept. Throughout time, people have used a wide range of symbols to explain the world and connect with deity as well as to express abstract ideas. Because symbols evolve over time or lose their significance, the ones that are most powerful are often the oldest. Since most symbols are multi-layered, operating on the emotional, intellectual, and spiritual levels, they awaken a response from our inner worlds. It has been argued that the symbols portrayed by Gumbutus was nothing more than designs because it was believed that people of the Paleolithic and Neolithic were not capable of abstract thought. However, Alexander Marshak, American scholar and Paleolithic anthropologist, noted that as far back as 30,000 BCE, the Ice Age hunter of Western Europe was using a system of notation that was already evolved, complex, and sophisticated. So, here is some information about the goddess. The first aspect of the goddess is her role as life giver. However, this encompasses more than giving birth. It includes nurturing, sustaining, and protecting life. Following the nurturing and protective ways of the great mother goddess, Neolithic people tended their crops and domestic animals, acts that tie them more closely with her and with the cycle of nature. Because of this, I think it is no accident that we refer to our planet as Mother Earth. However, the goddess was more than a mother deity of fertility who gave birth to creatures and fostered plant life. She was the cosmic creatrix who manifested everything from the smallest thing on the earth to the vast heavens. The goddess brought everything into existence and taught skills and craft. The goddess as water bird. The bird goddess created, nourished, and charged the earth and its creatures with an energy through the power of the life-giving element of water. She was regarded as the source of water that fell from the heavens, flowed on the surface of the earth, and welled up from underneath the ground. At home, in the sky, or in a river, water birds were considered the life of the waters. Water birds were an important source of food, and the annual migration was a major event. The return of ducks and geese to northern waters in the spring was an event for celebration because it ensured survival. Water birds brought abundance as food and as comfort through the use of their feathers. Cranes and other water birds also represented nourishment and abundance. Millennia later, the Egyptians and the Babylonians regarded water as the source of life-giving forces as they witnessed fertile new land being created from the river silt, which would bring abundance. As the mother goddess of Egypt, Isis was associated with the annual flooding of the Nile. Like many rivers and marshy areas, the Nile is teeming with water birds. Greek, Roman, Celtic, and Baltic legends linked goddesses to the magical potency of water in the form of streams, rivers, and sacred wells. In Ireland, the Boyne and Shannon rivers were named after the goddesses Boann and Sinan, and the river Seine in France for Sequana. Sequana had a water bird as her emblem and was often depicted in a duck-shaped boat. In addition, the name of the Gaulish goddess Nantoswelta means winding river, and her pre-Celtic origins date back to Old Europe. In one depiction of her, Nantosalta was shown with wings. Born from water, Aphrodite has been portrayed sitting on a swan throne, standing on the back of a flying goose, and with doves. Her mythology has been traced back to Cyprus and even earlier in Mesopotamia. Although Artemis, Diana, came to be regarded as the goddess of the hunt, she inherited the role of mistress of the animals. As such, swans and other water birds are closely associated with her. While the character Mother Goose is but a small remnant of the mother provider, the stork is still a symbol of the bringer of life. In mythology, not only did storks bring babies, they helped birth the new year and were considered the bringers of spring on their return to Europe. Like other migratory birds, their arrivals and departures were markers of cyclic time. Although the mother life-giving aspect of the goddess is mainly associated with waterfowl and odds, as it may seem to us today, the vulture had a place here too, with her name coming from the same root as the Egyptian word for mother. Mut was the archetypal mother goddess of Egypt, and her symbol was a vulture, worshipped with her husband Amun at Thebes, called Warsat by Egyptians, Mut was regarded as the mother of the pharaohs. In addition, Isis was occasionally depicted as a vulture. Nes, the bird goddess as weaver and giver of crafts. It has been suggested that making baskets was an idea gleaned from birds. As cultures evolved, the bird goddesses became a spinner and a weaver, and a giver of crafts. Neolithic temples were not grand structures. Instead, they were house-like with connecting workshops that integrated daily craft activities with spiritual practice. Weaving became a metaphor for creating life, perhaps because the bird goddess was portrayed as a spinner and a weaver who spun and wove the threads of life. Regarded as magical practices, spinning and weaving are methods for creating something from practically nothing. Simple threads become clothing and twigs become baskets. As the giver of crafts, which include spinning, weaving, cloth dyeing, metallurgy, pottery, and music, bird goddess symbols were incised on spindle whorls, loom weights, crucibles, and musical instruments. Spindle whorls and loom weights are small round or oblong discs that steady the movement of a spindle or prevent the threads on a loom from getting tangled. Inscriptions on these objects are thought to be dedications to the goddess. The practice of using goddess symbols on spindle whorls and on figurines of people spinning continued into the classical period of Greece. However, in Greek mythology, Athena was the giver of the crafts of pottery, spinning, and weaving, and her Roman counterpart Minerva was also associated with spinning and weaving. In addition, Norse goddess Freya was a spinner and weaver too, and she was often described as wearing a feather headdress. Eggs, the bird goddess of creatrix. To most of us, an egg is just a simple everyday item of food. However, throughout cultures worldwide and through time, the egg has had strong symbolic meanings. It represented new life and nourishment. The ability to hold life within was part of the mystery of the egg, and as was the fact that it is fragile yet strong. Metaphorically, the egg is very grounding, providing balance to wings that liberate from the bonds of earth. With egg-shaped thighs, buttocks, and breasts, the Yug goddess and other similar figurines present a trinity of woman, bird, and egg. In addition to figurines, bird and egg-shaped vessels and vases were often found in numerous places. Some of these depicted birds carrying eggs within their bodies. In countless mythologies from later civilization, a cosmic egg was the womb of the world and the source of all that existed. In some myths, a creator spirit took the form of an egg floating in primordial waters. According to Egyptian myth, the world egg was laid by a great goose. The Greeks believed the primordial egg was laid by a large black-winged bird. In many creation stories, the eggs crack open equated with the breaking of the water, which is a sign of imminent birth. When this happens, the world and cosmos came into being and time began. The cosmic egg gave birth to the sun as symbolized by the yellow yolk. It also divided the sky and land as symbolized by the shell broken in half. Life-giving and nurturing symbols. Migrating ducks and geese, swans, are well known for flying in the classic V-shaped formation. It was a natural suggestion for the V to become associated with the goddess as a symbol of fertility and abundance. The V and chevron, two or more V's nested in each other, were the insignia of the bird goddess. Actually, the use of the V and chevron dates back to the Paleolithic period. Found in a cave in Spain and dating to around 13,000 to 10,000 BCE, the shape of a crane or heron was engraved on bones that were also marked with chevrons. The use of the chevron continued throughout Neolithic periods and into later cultures. Resembling the markings of many birds, the V and chevron were used to represent a bird's or woman bird's beak, wings, or feathers, as well as to mark the pubic area. In addition to figurines, the V and chevron were used on vases, votive vessels, lamps, altars, plaques, and ritual objects. Chevrons were commonly used to mark musical instruments. Bird bone flutes marked with chevrons were found in France and other locations. In addition, a cache of flutes and rattles engraved with rows of chevrons were found in the Ukraine. Although the combination of birds and chevrons lingered into the 8th century BCE as a common Greek motif, their use lacked the sacredness they once held. The crossband, or X, which can be considered as two juxtaposed V's, is another important symbol of the bird goddess. The V, chevron, and X appear on their own as well as in combination. According to Gimbatas, a chevron or X alone seem to have marked an object as belonging to the goddess, and the V, chevron, and X in combination served as a blessing or invocation. Chevrons placed sideways between the arms of X's were a common configuration of these symbols. The meander is another fundamental symbol of the bird goddess. Looking like a square spiral, the meander is a rhythmic pattern that was often used in association with the V and the chevron. It was sometimes emphasized by being framed like a curvature. According to Ian Baring's interpretation, the meander was a symbol of water running beneath the earth and through caves, giving access to the underworld. Like the spiral, it is thought to have represented a path between the worlds of the seen and unseen. The meander, like water from underground springs, represents the water of birth bursting forth. The meander was commonly used on beaked or winged figurines, altarpieces, and temple models. In later times, abbreviated meanders laid out in a straight line became known as the Greek key, a design that was frequently used on pottery and in temples. An M-shaped symbol was used with the chevrons and zigzags on pottery pendants and loom weights. The M and double M, one above the other, served as a primary symbol on vases and marked them as sacred objects. The M was positioned below the breast on goddess figurines to emphasize life-sustaining milk. The M symbol was also placed above bird-like faces, and frequently a double M was positioned underneath a face on a large vases. The double M marked a face as that of the goddess to imply that the vessel and its contents were sacred. While the Egyptians used an M-shaped hieroglyph, mu, to signify water, to the Phoenicians, the same glyph means running water. On Egyptian dishes, the mu hieroglyph often appears with chevrons. The row of connected M's create another symbol called the zigzag. Alternatively, it could be said that the M is an abbreviated zigzag. Throughout the world, the zigzag has been used to represent water. As early as 30,000 BCE, the M and zigzag were used to mark bird-like figurines. Bird-shaped pottery was some of the earliest made during the Neolithic period and continued through the Bronze Age. Marked with the goddess symbol, these vessels integrated sacred and mundane functions as implements that served an ordinary purpose. Were used to pour sacred offerings. A vessel holding water or milk served as a representation of the goddess, allowing her nourishment and blessings to be symbolically poured. A variation of the water bird vessel with a spout shaped like a bird's head and beak was found in northern Greece. On Crete, a Minoan pitcher in the shape of a water bird with a long neck also had human breasts. The overarching theme of these symbols and aspects of the goddess encompasses creation, procreation, nurturing, and protection. In the next chapter, we will see how to incorporate these symbols into our practices as we connect with the aspects of the goddess and her birds. Let me show y'all. Okay, so here are the symbols. So Connecting with the life giver and creatrix. Here are some things that you can do to connect. There is the life-giving and nurturing ritual, which I'm just giving you the ideas. I'm not gonna go through everything on this part. We have invite birds to your yard. If you have a backyard or any outdoor space, put out a birdhouse, a feeder, and/or bird bath to nurture your local birds. Decorate eggs. Don't wait until a store to color and decorate eggs. The next time you make scrambled eggs, carefully poke holes in each end and blow them out so you can keep the shells intact. Rinse them thoroughly and allow them to dry. Using color markers or paint, decorate the eggs with bird goddess symbols or paint them to resemble the eggs of birds with which you want to work. If you have a small basket, arrange the eggs in it and simply place them on your altar or in your bird goddess shrine. As you do this, say, Ancient and beautiful bird goddess, I ask you to touch these eggs with your energy. May they represent your wondrous blessings. Some additional activities. Go outdoors and bird watch. Another way to honor the bird goddess is to place an open nest-shaped basket on your altar or someplace where you will frequently see it. Place a decorated egg or crystal egg or a bird figurine inside. Let this serve as a reminder of her life-giving and nurturing aspect. The basket can also serve as a focal point when working with the energy of birds. Bird guides and messages. Even if you have not felt an affinity with birds before, as you begin to work with their energy, you may develop a special connection with a particular type of bird. A bird guide may stay with you forever, or a new one may come into your life as you change and grow. In addition to a special bird guide, others may become important to us at different times. You may even find that these avian contacts change through the season as some birds migrate. Another level of relationship with birds are the messengers that make temporary contact to bring or help us interpret information or deal with a situation. There is visualization and meditations for finding your bird guide. Messages and guidance. As mentioned, sometimes certain birds come to us as messengers, and sometimes we may seek an outside force for guidance. The ancient Romans called this as a bird telling. If a particular type of bird keeps appearing and has not made itself known as your guide, then it may be bringing information for you. Alternatively, its appearance may help you understand something in your life or alert you to pay more attention to a certain situation. These appearances may also occur in dreams. The bird ogham. So, the Celtic ogham, also known as the tree alphabet, provides a unique way to connect with avian energy because birds are associated with the characters. The bird ogham was one of many types of ogham included in the Book of Ballymote, like many of the old books of Ireland. The Book of Ballymote is a collection of manuscripts. There are several ways that we can use this ogham when working with bird energy. One is to use the character in place of a bird's name when inscribing it on candles or other objects used for rituals or spells. If you have a set of ogham staves or cards, randomly choose one and then use the profiles in this book for information on potential messages. This table lists the Ogham names, letters, and their associated birds. Because a few of the birds are not included in this book, I have offered their cousins as alternatives. You may want to explore some of the birds from the original list if they pique your interest. Since the number of birds represented by the Ogham is so limited, another way to use it is by letter. For example, if you want to work with the energy of a falcon, you could always use the Ogham character fern, which represents the letter F. For letters not represented by the Ogham, there are common substitutions that can be used. For example, when working with the energy of a kingfisher, use the Ogham coal, which represents the letter C and is a substitute for K. The forfida are 5 characters that were not part of the original Ogham. While each character is not linked with an individual bird, the crane is associated with the forfida as a group. So any of these Ogham characters may be used for crane. Those are the Oghams and the birds that they represent. And then here's the rest. Moving on to feathers. Throughout the time and around the world, feathers have been a powerful symbol because they allow birds to defy gravity. Like the eggs, feathers have been regarded as special and magical. Carrying the transformative power of birds' feathers have been used for cloaks and headdresses or as tools to invoke the presence of bird spirits and helpers. Feathers are also associated with divination, second sight, and the otherworld, and they have been used as talismans. Before collecting feathers, picking up a feather from the ground seems innocent. However, unless you are exceptionally good at identifying the species of bird from which it came, you could be breaking the law. According to the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, it is illegal for anyone to take, possess, import, export, transport, sell, purchase, barter, or offer for sale, purchase, or barter any migratory bird or the parts, nests, or eggs of such a bird, except under the terms of a valid permit issued pursuant to federal regulations. You may be wondering what this means for those of us who do not deliberately hunt protected birds, destroy nests, or catch birds to sell as pets. Unfortunately, collecting feathers, even those found on the ground, nests, or eggs, is illegal. Simply possessing one these things is illegal because the law does not distinguish between picking up a discarded feather or eggshell and poaching them. Many birds are protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, the name of which is somewhat misleading. This is because the act covers some birds that simply migrate for food within their year-round habitat. At any rate, this law originated in 1918 to protect bird populations that were being decimated by the fashion industry's use of feathers. While the law has been updated from time to time, it may be a surprise to find certain birds on the list, such as the American crow and the herring gull. Nevertheless, they are included and protected. The entire text of the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and a complete list of birds included in this law can be found online. So, where does that leave us if we want to work with feathers? There are native species that are not included in the migratory list, such as pheasants, ruffed grouse, wild turkey, starlings, and others. Feathers sold in craft stores come from birds not protected by the Act and are legal to own. In addition to turkey and pheasant feathers, stores sell feathers from chickens, certain species of geese, and the mute swan, as well as peacock feathers and ostrich plumes. Often these are dyed to look like other types of feathers, such as eagle or hawk, as well as colors or patterns not found in the wild. These feathers can be used as symbols for birds in general and surrogates for the specific species we may want to work with that are protected under the law. For all, intention is intertwined with magic, and so with intention and willpower, we can symbolically work with a particular bird using the feathers of another. Some things that feathers can be used in are witch ladders, a quill pen attached to walking sticks, and feather charms. Moving on to the second part is the profiles. So we have different types of birds, and if you have a specific bird you want me to look up, let me know. And otherwise, which I will switch back over. Stop sharing. Okay. All right. So, Steven, is there or anybody else watching that has a specific bird that they would like me to look up? While I'm waiting for y'all to respond, I'm going to just pick one and start reading. So, the blackbird, also called the brewer's blackbird, rusty blackbird, and the red-winged blackbird. The legendary 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie were European members of the thrush family, not the blackbirds that we are familiar with in North America, even though the genus name Euphagus of the American birds means good to eat. New World blackbirds were not menu items as they had been in parts of Europe. In addition to naming birds according to the familiar ones in Europe, immigrants in North America attached their folklore to these birds too. As in Italy, the last 2 days of January and the 1st of February were known as the Blackbird Days. According to Italian folklore, the blackbird was originally white, but after taking shelter in a chimney during a very cold winter, it turned black. Other lore that became associated with the North American blackbird came from Celtic legends, where blackbirds served as gatekeepers to the otherworld in the fairy realm. If a blackbird sang before Christmas, prior to its normal time in mid-February, the month of February would start with a cold spell. That's kind of interesting. Magical workings of the blackbird. Black creatures blend into the night and convey a sense of mystery. Blackbirds can be called upon to draw on the energy of the goddess in new moon rituals. This bird reminds us to embrace the dark, to go deep, and to incubate ideas or explore mysteries. Blackbird's energy stokes creativity and heightens awareness for psychic work. It is also instrumental for defense. Blackbirds provide support and guidance for shamanic work, retrieving ancient wisdom and interpreting omens. Blackbirds themselves are omens, and singing too means good things are on the horizon. It is particularly helpful at Samhain, which is Halloween for those non-witchy folks, bringing access to the other world and contact with loved ones who have passed. Red-winged blackbird has a strong connection with life-giving goddess energy. It is especially associated with the Fates and other goddesses associated with spinning and weaving. And of course, it has information to connect with the blackbird energy. It has associations like the zodiac sign as Cancer. Its elements are air and water. Time of day is dusk. Its Sabbath is Samhain. And goddesses associated with it is Athena, Bertha, the Fates, Freya, Frigg, Hulda Hull, Isis, Minerva, Neith the Norns, and Rhiannon. How to identify a brewer's blackbird. Its size is 8 to 10 inches. Its wingspan is 14 to 15 inches. Its comparative size is to a robin. Description: slim body, fairly long tail and legs, long beak with thick base. A male is glossy black with purplish blue sheen on the head and greenish iridescence on the body with yellow eyes. The female has dull brownish gray with darker wings and tail and dark eyes. Their habitat is damp woods, wooded swamps, marshes, and meadows. They live from British Columbia to Ontario, Canada, down through the western United States to the Midwest, into the southeastern states and northern Florida, and into Mexico. Their eggs are pale gray to greenish white, spotted with brown, pink, yellow, violet, and gray. And it has some information on the rusty blackbird and the red-winged blackbird. So we got bluebird, we have canary, cardinal. Okay, I'm going to read the cardinal one because this one I like. So, at one time, the cardinal was thought to be a cousin of the red crossbill because of the shape of its beak. Later, when it was determined that the two species were not closely related, the scientific name was changed to Cardinalius virginianus with the common name Virginia cardinal. After several other changes, it was finally named Cardinius cardinalius with the common name northern cardinal because it is the only cardinal in the northern hemisphere. The species name Cardinalus was chosen because its plumage was reminiscent of the bright red color of the Catholic cardinal robes. Considered precious because the dye was very expensive, red was the color of power and affluence. Unique to North America, the cardinal was unfamiliar to early European settlers who simply called it the redbird. Also fascinated with their songs, people often caught them to keep as pets. In folklore, a cardinal seen flying upward meant good luck, while a downward flying one meant the opposite. The cardinal is one of only a few North American songbirds where the female also sings. While mated, pairs usually share song phrases. The female tends to have a slightly more complex melody. Male cardinals are often defend their territories through the use of song. Like many birds, the cardinal singing ends at the conclusion of the breeding season. But in late December, the brilliant bird resumes its song. In addition to their melodies, cardinals have an unmistakable metallic chip note. With its bright plumage, this bird stands out against the mostly dull winter landscape. It is no wonder that the cardinal is a popular symbol of winter in the Yuletide season. In addition, the color red associates it with holly berries and the goddess' life-giving blood. Magical workings. Like red ochre, a cardinal's color associates it with the energy of renewal and regeneration. Symbolizing the blood of the mother goddess, this bird brings the promise of fertility and the continuance of life. Use a picture or a figurine of cardinal on your Yule altar to draw the energy of the goddess into your ritual. This bird symbolizes the vitality of life and the importance of nurturing family and friends. Include cardinal in magic work relating to family and pregnancy. Although its color seems a stark contrast to white, cardinals aids us in finding balance and well-being during a time of year that is filled with joy, yet sometimes fraught with emotional challenges. Long nights and cold weather are conducive to turning inward, and cardinals can aid us in seeking knowledge and clarity by listening for that inner voice. With this bird's aid, we can fine-tune intuition and stoke creative juices while building confidence and self-worth. Of course, we can't ignore the fact that cardinal's red plumage is associated with love and passion. Include an image of this bird when working spells of romance. Are you still watching? Is there a specific... Hey! There's Spider! I didn't see that earlier, I'm sorry. So is there any birds that y'all want me to look up. We have chickadee, we got chicken, we have the cormorant, the crane, the crow, the cuckoo, the dove, the duck. Let's look. Okay, what's the magical workings with the duck? Since ancient times, ducks represented abundance and comfort. Use a picture of a duck in spells to draw on this age-old symbolism and to bring prosperity into your life. Being birds of the water, ducks are associated with emotions and can help bring clarity and foster affection. Call on the female duck for nurturing energy and the male for relieving stress. As a symbol of fertility, the duck engenders fidelity and communication in marriage. Duck is a bird of support, providing protection as well as attracting opportunities. It is also a helper in shamanic work when seeking connection with past lives, guidance, and transformation. Through its familiarity, duck provides comfort and support. Look up cuckoo and doves. Cuckoo? The cuckoo. Okay. So the cuckoo, the American cuckoos occasionally lay eggs in nests of other birds. However, they do this far less than their European cousins. This practice was the basis for the term cuckold, meaning the husband of an unfaithful wife. However, this term originally had a broader meaning of adulterer or deceiver. The Greeks associated the cuckoo and this habit with lust. Gods, especially Zeus, used the guise of this bird for amorous pursuits. The cuckoo was also regarded as a messenger of Thor, and it is believed to become a sparrowhawk during the winter. A common but shy bird, the cuckoo is heard more often than it is seen. In Europe, this bird has been considered uncanny because it is hard to distinguish from which direction its sound is coming. This gave rise to a wide range of folklore. In addition, if a cuckoo is heard in the wee hours of the morning, the interpretation of its calls depend on the current moon phase. April was considered the month of the cuckoo, when it returned to many parts of Europe and England. Numerous legends were centered around the first time a cuckoo was heard in the spring. For example, if a person had money in their pocket when this occurred, they would have a prosperous year. Greek writer, farmer, and astronomer Hesiod considered the cuckoo a weather forecaster. The timing of this bird's arrival in the spring was said to foretell summer weather, which was important for the year's planting and harvesting. In America, the cuckoo's tendency to make more noise as storms approached was the basis for its nickname rain crow. In Celtic lore, the cuckoo was a bird of the otherworld that could call forth the souls of the dead. It was also a herald for Lugh on the summer solstice. And you said you wanted a dove. So, magical workings for the dove. The dove is a bird of duality and balance, life, death, grief, happiness. Call on dove for support when mourning the death of a loved one. Its gentleness is especially helpful for healing at a time when we can feel so terribly fragile. Use a figurine or image of dove on your altar to honor the deceased and help to carry him or her towards rebirth. Dove represents hope, forgiveness, and compassion. Associated with Aphrodite, Venus, and other goddesses of love, it can be instrumental for magic relating to love and sex. Call on dove to stoke passion and sensuality, as well as to restore fidelity and harmony in a relationship. As an ancient symbol of springtime in the future, this bird is an aid for fertility, pregnancy, and childbirth. It can also boost prosperity spells. Dove's long association with prophecy makes it an ideal talisman to use for receiving messages from other realms. as well as general divination practices. More than anything, this bird is a powerful symbol of peace, wisdom, and spirit. In addition, dove can help ground and center energy after a ritual and magic work. Quaker bird. Let me see if I can find that. So duck, eagle, egret, falcon, finch and goldfinch. Finches. We got flamingo. We have goose, grouse, hawk, heron, hummingbird, ibis, jay, kingfisher, lark and meadowlark, loon, magpie, mockingbird, nighthawk and nightjar, nahotch, the oriole, osprey, ostrich, an owl, finches. Okay, I will go back to finches in a second. Parrot and parakeet. African gray parrot, yellow-headed parrot, American parakeet. Yeah, parakeet. Okay. I'll read that one. I'm trying to see if it has the other one you're asking for. Partridge, peacock, pelican, penguin, pheasant, pigeon, quail, raven, roadrunner, robin, sandpiper, plover, seagull, sparrow, starling, stork, swallow and swift, swan, vulture, turkey, waxwing, woodpecker, and wren. Obviously, I don't see Quaker bird. It's probably going to be... Okay, so parrot, parakeet. Okay. The yellow-headed parrot has been popular as a pet for several hundred years. Known as the popinjay in England until the 16th century, the name parrot was influenced by the French and Spanish name of paraquat and papagayo, respectively. The African grey parrot is considered one of the most intelligent birds. Research has shown that it has the reasoning capability of a 3-year-old human. In addition to learning words and phrases, the African grey can imitate individual people's voices and mimic a wide range of sounds, such as a telephone ringing. The ancient Egyptians revered parrots, depicting them in hieroglyphics and mummifying them for placement in tombs. These colorful birds were mentioned in the writings of India and Persia dating back 3,000 years. Kama, a Hindu god of love, was usually depicted riding a parrot, which linked this bird with symbols of fertility. The fact that parrots can talk contributed to their status as intermediates between people and deities. It also gave them an association with prophecy, one of which was the ability to predict rain. In most cultures, to kill a parrot was considered unlucky. Keeping a parrot became a symbol of wealth to the Romans, who introduced these birds throughout their empire. People around the world have used parrot feathers in rituals. In the 16th and 17th centuries, the feathers and birds became prized trade items. A pirate with a parrot is not just a character. Pirates were fond of unusual pets and often kept parrots for show, as well as to supply the booming market for these birds. In parts of Florida and Southern California, feral parrots thrive in the wild. Likewise, feral flocks of parakeets can be found in the wild in Florida. The name parakeet comes from the Spanish "parquito", the diminutive of papagayo, parrot. The only parrot native to North America was the Carolina parakeet, which is now extinct. Seeing them in 1774, French explorer Antoine de Prats called them "Pourquoi tête aurora", parrots with dawn-tinted heads. The familiar pet parakeet originated in Australia. British sailors who had been down under told stories about the little green birds, and in 1840 explorer John Gould was the first to take a pair back to England. The name Bugiraga was adapted from what British sailors thought they were called in Australia. Although the etymology is still disputed, one version is that the Aboriginal Vitriga meant good to eat. At one time, in Italy, parakeets were used for divination. With potential answers written on slips of paper, the person asking a question would have the bird choose one of the papers. Like their larger cousins, parakeets can be trained to mimic sounds. I know Poncho can talk. This is the entry for parrots and parakeets. So, um, for magical workings for a parrot, parrot is a bird of abundance, echoing the fertility of its rich tropical origin. Call on parrot to grace your altar at Ostara and Beltane, as well as Mabon. It can also give a boost to your creativity. Parakeet is an especially good aid for boosting love spells. Call on it for support when engaging in divination. Both birds are associated with communication and prophecy, and they can be your guides for interpreting messages and omens. And you said you wanted finches? I think I said finches. Let me look. If a falcon, finch, finch and goldfinch. So, for finches, we have magical workings. These little high energy creatures have the vitality that help us awaken, activate talents that we may not know we possess. Whenever introspection is needed, call on Finch to aid you in heightening your awareness. As a songbird, Finch helps us realize the power of the voice and communicate on all levels, including with spirits. Goldfinch, in particular, is an aid for contacting spirits. Associated with enchantment, Finch can open the gateway between the worlds for contacting the fairy folk. Call on this bird to enhance your summer solstice celebration by placing a figurine or picture on your altar during ritual. Invite Finch to aid in spells dealing with fertility, for resolving family issues, and for attracting wealth. So, do you have any other ones you want me to look up? We've actually lasted the whole hour that I planned, and no one else has actually joined in, so if there are no more requests. Or questions? Was there any questions? Like I said, this is a really thick book. The second part of the book is all the information's on specific birds. And then the front part had information. I didn't read every little thing because there was a lot. So in part one, we have the practices. We have chapter 1 Birds and Divinity. Chapter 2, Birds in Spiritual Practices and Symbolism. Chapter 3 was Come From Her, Life Giver and Creatrix. Chapter 4, Connecting with the Life Giver and Creatrix. 5 was Return to Her, Death Wielder and Regeneratrix. 6 is Connecting with the Death Wielder and Regeneratrix. 7 is Transformer and Eternal Spirit, Connecting with the Transformer and Eternal Spirit. 9 was Bird Guides and Messages. 10 was Feathers. And then part 2 is the profiles with the different birds. Albatross, blackbird, bluebird, canary, cardinal, chickadee, chicken, crane, crow, etc., etc. So, any questions, comments from the peanut gallery? Hear the train? Alright, I guess not. Seagull? Okay. Okay. I'll do seagull and then I'm gonna end it. Okay? Unless you have any more questions. Cock. Seagull, seagull, seagull. Roadrunner. Seagull. With their wheeling and whirling flight, seagulls are masters of the wind. The herring gull is the quintessential seagull and one of the most familiar on the East Coast. Their family name comes from the Greek "leros", meaning seabird. The name gull came into use in the middle of the 15th century and is thought to have come from the Cornish gullen or the Welsh gwallan, which means throat and welling respectively. Before that time, these birds were known as mews because of their crying sounds. Since medieval times, gulls were believed to be the souls of people drowned at sea. These birds were thought to possess prophetic powers, and anyone who made a living on the sea used them for guidance. Sailors kept an eye on seagulls for indications of weather changes, and fishermen observed them to find schools of fish. According to folklore, a seagull spotted far inland meant rain or storm at sea. Also, if a seagull landed on a ship, the voyage would be a good one. There were negative connotations about seagulls as well. 3 or more gulls flying overhead was an omen of death. Or, if a seagull flew against the window of a sailor's house while he was away, it meant that he was in danger. In Greek legend, the sea nymph Ino, who was also known as the goddess Leucothea, could shapeshift into a seagull. In addition to the dove, the seagull was one of Aphrodite's symbols. Seagulls are highly intelligent birds. Herring gulls have been known to bait fish by floating bits of food on the surface of the water to bring them into reach. I will look up that. So, what your top 5 favorite birds? So, my top 5 favorite birds, owl, hawk, the ibis, it's the white seabird, cardinal. What was that? 4, I think. 5, peacock. Or raven. No, wait, raven is one of them. Yeah. So raven and so the owl, the raven, the peacock, the ibis, and I forgot what was the other one. Penguin. Penguin. Penguin's a good one too. I like penguin. Can't pick one. Pelican, peacock, partridge, the owl, barn owl, a great horned owl, a long-eared owl, and a snowy owl. Snowy owl like the owl from Harry Potter. I'm already doing okay. I'll do owl and then I'll do raven, but that's it. That's my last. Okay, penguin. Okay, those are okay. No more after that. Okay, so an owl. As we have seen, the association of the owl with the goddess is ancient and enduring, dating to approximately 13,000 BCE. A depiction of her as a snowy owl was found on a wall in the Tros-Forêts cave in southwestern France. The image marks the earliest image of a bird of an identifiable species. Throughout Old Europe, images of owl eyes were believed to carry the goddess's sacred power. The Egyptian owl hieroglyph represented the letter M and was a symbol of wisdom and goddess-related knowledge. In Greece, the owl goddess became Athena, who was associated with wisdom and considered lucky, especially to soldiers. The Romans believed the owl to be an ally of Hecate and associated with shape-shifting witches. They also consider the owl an omen of death, initiating an association that has lasted for millennia. In later folklore of many cultures, owls were associated with sorcery and witchcraft, and to see or hear one was an omen of death. The barn owl often appeared ghostly pale when seen at night. This and the fact that owls fly almost in silence because of the fluffy edges of their wings has fueled its association with death and sorcery. Despite the negativity, owls maintained their status as protectors. In medieval Europe, a dead owl nailed to a barn was believed to protect the structure against storms and lightning. In China, owl-shaped ornaments hung on a house were thought to protect it against fire. The name owl is said to come from the Latin "eulolo", meaning owl. Most owls are in the family Strigidae, which comes from the Latin "strix", meaning screech. The great horned owl is the quintessential owl of storybooks and the most common one in North America. It is also the most dangerous predator for crows. With extremely acute hearing, the long-eared owl can grab its prey in complete darkness. The male's barking calls can be heard up to a mile away. Unlike other owls, the snowy owl is a day bird. Okay, penguin. Magical workings for the penguin. Penguin spends a lot of time in winter twilight, thus being familiar with the otherworldly between state. Calling penguin as a shamanic guide to underworld journeys, astral travel, and dream work. With the moon providing the brightest light for several months, penguin gains the wisdom of Luna and passes along to those it guides. Able to hold on in the harsh Antarctic winter, penguin teaches us how to be strong and to adapt it to any situation. Invite penguin into your rituals to help build community and cooperation. Magical workings for a raven. Raven is a bird of omens and prophecy, and in most places where this bird resides, it has been believed to possess supernatural powers. Call on it to interpret messages in your divination practices or to help you develop clairvoyant skills. This verse supports shamanic work by bringing clarity to the visions you receive. Call on Raven for your magic work, especially to manifest important changes. Also call on it to connect with the energy and magic of the crone. Use an image or figurine of Raven on your altar as Samhain for aid in honoring and connecting with your ancestors. It is a willing and wise guide to the underworld who act as a guardian to you. As a bird of battlefields, ask for a raven's protection if you are serving in the military. Raven can help bolster courage and is a bird of healing. And that is all I'm going to do tonight. I am out of tea and it is really dry in here. So, hopefully that gives y'all a good overview on bird magic. I do, well, actually, I don't yet, but I will have a specific Pinterest board with more information on bird magic, and I will add it to the link to it in the description. Um, if you have any requests for any other topics, I should be getting back to my astrology um, videos shortly, and I think, oh, and I have a couple other topics coming up. I have blood magic and I have hair and spirituality. But if you have any other requests, just let me know and do one for cats. Okay, I will add that to my list. And I will try to get Jupiter to join me because there is information on that. I don't have a book for it, but I can get the information for that. I'll just research it. So until next time, make sure you hit those thumbs up. Hit this notification bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. And until next time, I'm out.